Earth School. I think it's a good time to make this podcast. I made a previous video called Sickness or about sickness that I may have put online by the time you're watching this. I don't know. I often make things and then I change and I kind of feel it's no longer relevant, so I don't bother putting it online. Anyway, so in that video, and I'll touch upon, but I'm not going to go into detail in this, that over the last few months, I've gone through a number of different sicknesses, ear infection, uh, corona flu, and then colitis, which is the gut, and trouble digesting food, which resulted in a lot of diarrhea and a lot of vomiting, and having to go and get scans and camera down my throat and all that kind of stuff. But it was all highly purposeful to clear a lot of energy from my system and physically to clear my system too. So it, these things have been highly purposeful, but we're now at about half four, five, six, seven, eight. So about 20 hours ago, at the time of recording this, there was a kind of 7.2, 7.4 earthquake here in Acapulco. And actually, I was sitting right here, sitting here with my partner, with my girlfriend. We had just eaten a pizza. And, I joked afterwards that it was like the higher self or God or the universe had said, like, if you finish the pizza, and we thought, yeah, yeah. And then the fucking, the earth starts to move. And it happened very sudden and it was fierce, but it was a long earthquake. It wasn't, I've experienced, so being from Ireland, I don't really have any experience with earthquakes. But since I've come to Mexico, there can be 20, 30, 40 earthquakes a day here in Mexico, but they're usually under 4.0 or certainly under 5.0 on the Richter scale. They're not too, but you can sometimes you feel them, but generally when you're moving about and doing your thing, you don't notice them. You're not aware of them. But say if you're sat down or if you're in bed, you feel it and you wake up immediately and there's a shot of adrenaline and you're kind of on edge and you have to kind of come down again and get back to sleep. But this lasted, I don't know how many seconds. I don't really want to put a number on it because I'm well aware that my mind could have changed the reality. You know, 3,000 seconds long, the earthquake, might have been 5 seconds. It could have been 10 seconds. I don't know, but it felt like a long time. And I knew in that moment, during it was like, this should stop any second. This should stop now. And it just fucking kept going. But the ear infection, COVID, colitis, which totally cleared me out, and then the earthquake, like it's all presenting both opportunities within myself to deepen my presence. So when you're sweating in bed with COVID and you think you're dying or you think your girlfriend's dying or whatever it may be, it really is challenging, especially the lower our energy is. It's really very, very challenging to step away from the absolute madness of the mind, you know, mind going 100 miles an hour with all sorts of shit, nonsense. Step away from that and be centered. And it took work to do that. And maybe part of the reason I'm kind of making this video now is that 20 hours later, I have managed to meditate and I have managed to slow myself down and become present. So when it happened last night, you know, my girlfriend was with me, so kind of forced me to center myself. I don't know how I would have responded on my own, but because she was with me and she was worried about her kids were in her own apartment, maybe about 20 minutes away. There was no answer to the phones. We didn't know what would happen, what had happened, didn't know if they're okay. She began to panic. So for me, it gave me a role to center her, ground her, or try to, and also to center and ground myself. And then we drove there. And I'm good with driving. Driving for me is an opportunity to be present, to be in my body. I find it because I lived in the car for 4 years. It's kind of like I learned this living in a fucking car. So it's an opportunity to kind of just really be in the body when you're moving through and you're observing those chaos in the streets, and rubble had come off buildings and few ambulances zooming by and that kind of thing. So it's a real opportunity for the fear to go bananas. Oh my God, like what's happening? Or else to just be in the observer and witness what's happening and be grounded and just keep going and work your way through the traffic with the traffic. You can't go around them or over them. You have to just go with them. And it was an interesting experience, and I won't give the whole story because it was a long night. I've had about 3 or 4 hours sleep, broken sleep, because I'd conk out. I came back here and I conk out in my own bed, and then maybe 20 minutes later there'd be an aftershock, which was kind of, I just checked and there's been 52 earthquakes since in this area, and they've all been between 3 and 5.0 on the Richter scale. So that's an earthquake to me. Now there's been plenty of below that, that are just little tremors. But what I noticed when I meditated was that in those tremors or aftershocks, it's both an opportunity for me to center. It's a T junction, an opportunity for me to center and integrate what was released or awakened with the big one last night, or it's an opportunity in a sense to fuel the PTSD. It's an opportunity to fuel that terror, so that every time it's actually happened, a neighbor slams a door and I kind of, oh my God, you know what I mean? I feel that. So, and even in these moments, like I'm aware, I'm observing that there's still little, woo, 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 still little tremors, and you can kind of hear them. It's like the I don't know what the word is. The acoustic, is that the word? The natural sound of here disappears and is replaced with a kind of woo, just a tiny rumble, tiny rumble. And then the physical happens. Then I hear, or then I feel the shift, and then the body obviously reacts, and it's adrenaline. It's fear, it tightens up. It's fear. So, um, so this fear, the earthquake, is an opportunity for me to witness and integrate the fear that you could say, or I could say, is it's, first of all, I would say it's already within me. This is not a new fear. Is that I generated all of these things. And if I'm centered enough, grown up enough, have enough fucking balls and courage and presence to be able to witness and honor Gavin's, whoever the fuck Gavin is, because I have no idea. This spiritual being and physical being is presenting, it's going to react. It's going to present a cocktail of emotion and chemicals that go through this body, anxiety or whatever labels you want to put on it. It's my responsibility to develop the presence to be able to witness that and be present with it. And as I said earlier, it took me 20 hours to get to this. And it's been a busy 20 hours of getting back to clients, canceling things, being with my partner and her kids, and just allowing things to settle, because the whole, like, part of Acapulco is nothing is really open now. It's kind of in, people are kind of finding their feet if they can go into buildings. I don't know what's called, the civil engineers, I think, need to check buildings or public buildings to see if they can reopen. There's a lot of checking, and then there's plenty of aftershocks going on, so people are kind of settling. But I certainly could have done better, but I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. So not going to allow this little voice, you should have fucking meditated last night after the earthquake. Go away. Like I'm learning from this and I'm doing my best. So my point is, these opportunities are, and now there will be more aftershocks, there will be more tremors, which are opportunities now that I've got one foot in the door. Now that I'm kind of a little bit back on track, to witness what comes up in me and to integrate that. Now I can name that my stuff from this life, fear, panic, whatever labels you want to pluck out of the sky. from this lifetime, from my family line and my ancestry that I have inherited. I think that was another shake that I have inherited. So we are walking and carrying and manifesting and generating the frequency of our ancestors. I don't cut off my ancestors. You know, like people say, how to cut loose of, or I can't think of what terms people use. Clear your ancestor stuff that you're carrying. No, dear God, no. I contracted. I chose to be born in this family line. I chose to inherit my ancestors and my parents and so on, and all of their both positive and evolution, and also their negative and the trauma that they haven't been able to integrate. I chose to inherit this. And I chose to inherit this because this is a mathematical equation of trauma, or whatever experience you want to call it, that when integrated will have an equal sign and take me to the place that my being is seeking to move to. So all of my ancestry stuff is highly purposeful. It is part of my journey. Trying to cut loose of this stuff just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like the toxic people. It's nonsense. It's ego. It's the human ego trying to be comfortable, safe, and avoid any kind of work or growth. We want to fucking rub a crystal and be ascended and enlightened. Nonsense. Steer clear of these people. Steer clear of these teachers. It's bananas. You know, come to school, do some actual work. So in these moments, I have opportunities to witness this, and it can be mine, my ancestors. And if you want to, I don't use this, but it could be the collective. For me, it's more ego deflating for me to accept responsibility and say it's my own. If I start to walk around and say I'm integrating the collective trauma, for me, it's a bit too fucking indulgent. And I know that I'm potentially sick enough. I'm potentially arrogant and indulgent enough that for me to say that too many times, I'll start to believe it and buy into it. And it's just not good. I'm happier to say, no, this is mine. I've gathered these experiences from the things I've done to other people and have done to me in previous lives. And now this is my lot, and it's my responsibility to work with it. I'm okay with that. It deflates the ego enough, and I think that's a good place to be. So the real challenge, I made a video a few years ago about driving one of the cars that I lived in, and the car was going to break down, and I was afraid it was going to overheat in traffic on a Friday evening, and I wouldn't be able to get to a garage till Monday. And I lived in this thing. I needed it to move. If it broke down on a main street, you know, blocking traffic, where the fuck would I sleep that night, or until it was fixed? And I, you know, in that experience, I did my best in those moments in that traffic to be present with me. There was another shake. So in these moments, you know, it's a real tear, because part of me is going to really lose myself in this being, this physical experience, and these chemicals and what's happening. And then another part of me is going, no, you need to be on edge because there might be an earthquake and you have to run out. But the test and the real work is to forget this. I don't need to be on edge. That's the human thinking. I have to manage this situation. I need to manage it. But my experience is that if I can lose myself in spirit, spirit's not fucking stupid. The human just seems to think that, oh, like if I'm not afraid, I won't know how to react. I mean, that's fucking caveman talk. If we're awake and we're connected and grounded and present, we instinctively get the guidance. We know to stand up and run out or do whatever, or sit or do whatever we have to do. But ultimately, I would be present with my trauma and my fear and my pain. And really, ultimately, that's where I want to be. So although it's been a hard few months in Earth School in these classes, it's been fucking highly purposeful. And I'm really grateful for it. So I'll leave it at that. I think I've gone over my time. Instagram cuts me off at 15 minutes. So thanks for listening to me. And thanks for the messages around the earthquake. It's all good. It's all highly purposeful if we can keep moving in these directions. Thank you. Be well.